All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our November 9th council meeting. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of November 9th, 2021 be adopted. Do you have a mover?
Henry Siemens.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder?
Marvin?
Thank you, Marvin. And are there any additions? Hearing none, all in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 26th be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
And a seconder?
Michael?
Thank you. Are there any errors or omissions or concerns regarding the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor? And then that is carried. We have no correspondence to deal with today, so we'll go directly into the accounts payable. Be it resolved that the accounts payable in the amount of $1,068,955.61 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover?
Henry Siemens.
Seconder?
Don.
Thank you. You've noted the check ledger. Any questions regarding the ledger? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the in-camera Finance Committee meeting of November 2nd be adopted. Mover?
Henry Siemens.
Seconder?
I can help.
Marvin, thank you. All in favor of those minutes? And that is carried. Going on to the Police Board minutes, be it resolved that the Winkler Police Board minutes for October 20th, 2021 be adopted. Mover?
I'll help.
Thank you. Andrew is absent today, so thank you, Henry. Do you have a seconder?
Sure. Go ahead.
Michael?
Michael?
Yep.
Thank you. Any questions or comments regarding the Police Board minutes? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the attached Winkler Fire Department report for October 2021 be received for information. Mover?
Michael?
Thank you. A seconder?
Don.
Thank you, Don. Any comments, questions?
Is it just my imagination or does it look like calls are down?
They were, it looked like, oh, Marv, you can probably talk about it firsthand there, but I think October's numbers were down from the previous year and I think year-to-date as well, if I read that all correctly.
We were down just slightly.
Okay.
Yeah. Earlier on, we were down a bit and then it picked up again, so,
Okay.
Kind of looks like it averages out pretty good
yeah.
compared to the last 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe on behalf of council, just to extend our appreciation to Richard, how much detail he puts into
Yeah.
these reports and the record that is being kept for future generations to look at to see how that department is operated. So appreciate that very much. Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to the MSTW report, be it resolved that the attached MSTW Planning District reports be received for information. Mover?
Don.
Seconder?
I can help.
Thanks, Michael. Any comments regarding the report?
Well, just that our numbers are, our month to date is over last year is pretty much the same, but for inspections. Permits are down a bit, but our overall numbers are way higher than what they were last year.
Yeah, I was looking overall, 3 of the jurisdictions, and all of them have significant changes, which is nice to see.
And also our contract work, which is like Arma Pembina, Arma Rhineland, Arma Morse, we're picking up significant amount of work in that area as well.
Okay, looks like it's going pretty good. All right. All in favor of that report? And that is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2270-21 be given second reading. Mover?
Henry Siemens.
And a seconder?
Don.
Okay, Marvin, thank you. Any comments regarding the report to council or information that's in regards to 227021?
So just as a reminder, the public hearing was already held for this, and this is just to go now through the second and third reading.
Okay, all in favor of the second reading? And that is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2270-21 be given third reading, subject to a development agreement. Terms and conditions of the development agreement will be in accordance with the recommendations made in the city's report to council and include management infrastructures to conditions of approval. Mover?
Henry Siemens?
Seconder?
Don?
And any comments? Anybody here representing this application? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Next on the agenda is we recess this meeting in anticipation of the next one, right? Be it resolved this meeting in council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover?
Marvin?
Seconder?
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. Okay.
Set their alarm.
Good to go, Martin?
Ready to go.
Okay, so we have a couple of public hearings tonight. I'm going to introduce each of them and provide any additional information for council and for the public. At that time, Mayor Harder will ask for anyone who would like to address council regarding the hearing. And when you do speak, we ask that you come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and then you can speak to the matter. All questions or comments from the public should be directed to the mayor from the podium. And then after everyone has been heard, the public hearing will be closed, and then council will vote on the matter. So our first public hearing is for variation application number 1704-21. Applicant is John Fraze on behalf of Jack Fraze. And the application is in order to meet conditions of a previously approved subdivision, 4463-20-8001. And the notices were distributed according to the Planning Act, and we have not received any written objections or otherwise for this application.
So is there anyone attending here today who wishes to speak in regards to this application? There's nobody here, and we haven't heard of any formal requests. We will therefore be it resolved that the public hearing for variation 1704-21 be closed. Mover?
Marvin?
Seconder?
Michael?
Thanks, Karina. Karina is on remote, so she's missing here. So thanks, Karina, for weighing in. So Michael and Karina, all in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that council approve variation number 1704-21. Mover?
Henry Stevens?
Thank you, Henry. Seconder?
Don Fair.
Thank you, Don. Any questions regarding that? Comments? Nothing? All in favor? That is carried. All right, next one, Jody.
Next public hearing is to repeal and replace our current zoning bylaw 1938-08 and replace it with bylaw 2271-21, which applies to the entire limits of the city of Winkler. We've also noted for council some of the public engagement information and the public hearing notices that went out. Maybe notable is that letters were sent out to 400 different landowners for those that would be affected by different changes. So what we're going to do next, because this is a very large and significant bylaw, is we've worked over a matter of time now with Urban Systems on this new zoning bylaw. And we have Ryan here from Urban Systems who's going to give you a little bit more information about that, if you would, Ryan.
Okay, yeah, just step up to the podium because you're live.
I'm live. Hi. Good evening, everyone. Really nice to see you in person after
Yeah,
all
you
this.
can take your mask
For
off
sure.
and speak
Definitely,
if
is
you
that
like.
easier for you?
Yeah.
Perfect. So good evening again, Ryan Siegel. I'm a planner with Urban Systems in our Winnipeg office. Address is 300 123 Bannatyne Avenue, in case you need it there. Really happy to be here tonight to discuss the zoning bylaw and really hit this milestone for the city of Winkler. As you know, the city's current bylaw was adopted in 2008, and it's been amended numerous times since then, but it really hadn't gone through a major, detailed review. So we had the pleasure of working with the city to undertake that collaborative review with staff in particular to discuss the current zoning bylaw and really determine what works well and what they could benefit from changing and what some of the city's challenges have been since the adoption of the previous bylaw. And because some of those changes really required a comprehensive internal review, we facilitated a series of working sessions with city staff to review items. In particular, we looked at the definitions and permitted and conditional uses and bulk setback regulations, and really a great collaborative exercise with input from the planning committee and from council as well throughout. And overall, the goal was really to make the bylaw more user-friendly and easier to administer, which we hope it is. And we think the result here in this work is that it's a really clear, concise, and easy-to-administer bylaw. It's easier to understand, and there's also some visual appeal to it now as well, with some more illustrations and graphics to really help support the information in there. And ultimately, the goal is to really support development and your community goals and provide a degree of certainty for everyone involved in the zoning process. and also to meet some of the new policies in the growing Winkler secondary plan, which we were fortunate enough to work with the City of Winkler on as well. So as I said, we've simplified and consolidated some of the zones. We've modernized and simplified the uses and improved the overall look and feel and readability of the document, and addressed those areas and provisions that, day to day have caused challenges for everyone, and really tried to be clear and address some of the conflicts and out-of-date regulations as well. And again, we think it really encourages collaboration between the development community and the city going forward towards, mutual goals and outcomes for everyone. You'll probably hear a bit more tonight about some of the changes, but I thought I would just share a few of them for you again. Some key changes in the residential areas you'll see are, includes the reduction of some of the minimum lot areas and widths for single unit and multi-unit dwellings to promote density and affordability. We're permitting 2-unit dwellings in some of the lower density residential zones to promote housing choice and affordability. And we've simplified commercial industrial uses, especially retail uses, so that it's easier to, you're not sort of searching through a long list of things to see if you fit in. It's really a bit more permissive and helps simplify the process for everyone. Some slight reductions in parking minimums, especially in the downtown, and some simplified landscaping and screening standards, all to make council's job a bit easier as well when those applications come forward. And speaking in terms of public engagement, we created a community newsletter with the city that was sent out along with that survey that you'll see the results of, where we got some great feedback. And it's really important to hear from residents and developers throughout the entire process as well. 400 letters were sent out to anyone whose zoning was changed, and we had a lot of great feedback and a lot of great discussions leading to the draft you have before you tonight. And as I said, tonight's public hearing is really an important milestone in the adoption of your new bylaw. But it's important to remember that the bylaw won't be perfect on day one. And as you saw, there's always comments that come in from the province and from others. And this is a great opportunity to make sure that we, address those minor changes before going further in the process. And there will be obviously minor changes in the future as well as applications come forward. And I know the city has been sort of using both bylaws temporarily just to sort of test it out and see how it's going. And that's really helped us in the formulation and edits to the document as well. So in closing here, it's been a really collaborative project with great support and insight from the city team. And it's resulted in a new bylaw that should support Winkler's growth and promote collaboration and enable council and administration to make decisions more effectively and efficiently every day. So looking forward to the discussion tonight, and I want to thank city staff, Stephanie and Scott and Jody, and everyone involved in really making this a great opportunity to work together to help you out on this project.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ryan, for giving us a bit of an update. I think what we'll do is ask Stephanie then to highlight some of the specific changes that are taking place since our first reading.
Hi there. So there, a lot of the agency comments and feedback from different departments came back very late. So while we were intending to sort of have a bit more of a polished second reading prepared for you, there just wasn't enough time to incorporate the feedback given. But what I can do is summarize some of the recommendations that they've made to us, and basically let you know whether or not we think that they're worth supporting. I think in your agendas there's a bit of a detailed list. Hoping everyone had a chance to look at that over. For the most part, a lot of the recommendations I think we would support. A lot of them are edits or just different things that we hadn't fully considered. In terms of the comments received from municipal relations or community and regional planning. One recommendation that they brought forward that we'd like council's input on, particularly in light of the public hearing, I guess, is that they're recommending that cannabis cultivation operations and processing operations be considered as a conditional use in the industrial zone. Now, as you know, there was a plebiscite that was held in 2018 that prohibited the retail sales of cannabis within Winkler limits. So, sort of without reigniting that conversation, our recommendation would be to maybe just leave that as a defined uses, but then not permitting them in any particular zone, unless of course we're given direction to do so otherwise. So it's just one there that we kind of disagreed with them on. In terms of agricultural activities, we're proposing that a definition called crop production be added, and that activity be permitted in the development reserve or DR zone, which was previously the community reserve zone, which is primarily undeveloped land. We want to encourage farming as long as possible there. They have also recommended that boarding and rooming houses be considered as a principal use. Now, basically what that typically looks like is it's like one bedroom that are rented out, right? It could be like a housing situation where you have a number of students living and sharing a house, where they each have their own bedroom, but they're sharing the kitchen facilities. So in our new zoning bylaw, we're proposing that be permitted as an accessory use, so accessory to the house being used as a principal use dwelling. They're recommending that be considered as a principal use. Not sure if you guys have direction on that for us, but that's something we can certainly look at more closely between second and third reading as well. It could go either way. Solar collectors, I think it makes sense to allow it as an accessory use in residential and commercial zones as recommended there. Previously in our old zoning bylaw, we had it defined as either an on-site use or commercial use, wall-mounted, ground-anchored. But we now have specific use standards that sort of define, as an accessory use, how tall, how wide, how far it can project, those types of things. So for new builds, it might make sense to support solar collectors. Otherwise, we want to do a little bit more homework regarding rail car or semi-trailer or C-cans, often referred to as, probably adding them as an accessory use in the table, so that when it's in place for more than 90 days, it's very clear on how that's permitted and where, and what specific conditions might be attached to that, like, for example, whether there be a wood or concrete foundation. So just to provide added clarity to that section. Otherwise, it was pointed out that there is a restriction on basements. That was just section 8.7 there. What happened is we consolidated soil and slope information with flood protection information. And so inadvertently now basements, it looks like they're not permitted as a living space, as a bedroom. So that's definitely getting fixed. That's just a rearrangement there that can be done. Otherwise, strong concerns from Manitoba Infrastructure just pertaining to the referencing to the correct act. So previously, the act that was in effect was the Highway Protection Act, and it's now the Transportation Infrastructure Act. Secondly, the design flood criteria is now a 1 in a 200 period instead of 1 in a 100 period. So that's been supported by legislation elsewhere, so that's consistent, so we'll definitely make that change as well. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Any questions there? Do we want to have some dialogue in that regard, or?
I have a question in regards to more of a clarification issue. The secondary use you're referring to, let's say 3 or 4
Yep.
Single individuals were renting a house, and so it became a primary and a secondary. Let's say one individual rented the house, but he sublet bedrooms. Would that individual then be the primary?
Yeah, so it's like under some municipalities, actually in their definition, they have a boarding or rooming house defined as being owner occupied. That's not something we generally want to regulate, but what we can regulate is whether or not it's a permitted principal use versus just an accessory use, with sort of that principal use being implied as being the, oftentimes the owners. So, yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, we did receive some edits recommended from some planning staff, just from that same office. A little bit more informal there. We are recommending additional review on the projection section 2.7. We want to consult with MSDW and Winkler Fire a bit further as it relates to what's permitted in that required side yard. We want to make sure that it's an accessible space, and so that typically it's 5 feet, and allowing projections into that space, it it really closes off it for access. So we'll get you some recommendations on that. We just want to go back to them, both parties there. The recommendations, these comments came back to us end of the day last Thursday, so didn't have a whole lot of time. Yeah, most of the other edits that they've recommended here are pretty much grammatical in nature. You know, you missed a subsection A versus B. I think we can agree with most of them there. One comment that was made here, places of worship, the definition itself doesn't explicitly allow things like gymnasiums or classrooms, but I think that you know, modern churches often include gymnasiums and things, so we can look at clarifying the accessory uses permitted in the institutional zone. So we can look at that closely too, if you like.
It'll probably be pretty important, I would expect.
Well, the thing is, that with churches and stuff, the biggest consideration is often parking, and we already do look at it sort of by use, so by floor area, by use. So that part would be covered off, whether or not we explicitly state that a gymnasium is an accessory use. So, otherwise, in terms of community impact input, the public engagement piece was primarily done through the online survey. You guys have the results there to look over. We had some business owners reach out and provided clarification as much as possible. There is one letter there from CT REIT that came forward expressing a bit of question and concerns regarding existing uses in the CS zone, which, because we're eliminating the CS zone and consolidating that into a new commercial general zone, there are some existing uses that would remain permitted and they would be grandfathered. So.
And they were notified?
Yeah, we had a good conversation last Friday, so I think they were satisfied with that. No objections received formally so far, so
Okay.
informally or formally, I should say that both ways.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
So we will open this up to the public then. If anybody else would like to add questions or comments in regards to the document itself, or some of the stuff that Stephanie made mention of, or urban systems, maybe there's some questions for them. Is there anybody who would like to ask some questions or have some comments? If there is none, I think it'd be appropriate to ask Scott if you want to share a few comments in regards to the process. And I mean, you're in charge of the department and you put a lot of work into it as well. But do you want to have a few comments?
Sure. Putting me on the spot for that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think we've ran a fairly efficient process here. It's stretched out over a little bit of time. Lots of permits coming in over the summer here as well, but it allowed us that opportunity to actively test it against our existing zoning bylaw as well as the new zoning bylaw, and get some really meaningful feedback through our development community as well at the same time. And so I think that's helped strengthen the understanding of what some of the major concerns are through that process, as well as being able to clean up some of our bigger issues in the sense of how is this administered? Are we looking at certain regulations? Are we enforcing certain regulations? If we're not, let's make sure that we have the appropriate regulations in place and not duplicating on regulations with other government bodies as well. And so I'd like to express my appreciation to Urban Systems and staff who has done the bulk of the work on this as well. And so running a really good process and I think a great document for the city to continue to grow into.
Thank you, Scott. And as I said before, it's always important to get the feedback before you present the document rather than presenting the document first and then finding out what's all wrong with it. So appreciate the process. And I did say landmark planning to you guys before I meant urban systems. So if you want to fix that for me, thanks.
Different project.
Yeah, I realize that. We've had a lot of reviews done lately, so. All right, if there's no other comments, and I want to thank the staff for the work and Jody for putting this all together, and therefore be it resolved, the public hearing for bylaw 227121 be closed. Mover,
Michael?
seconder,
Don?
thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Karina, are you still there?
I am.
Thanks. So you can't see you, so I got to make sure that you're still there.
I think just in reflecting on it, first of all, yeah, thanks to the staff for working so hard at getting it right, and for urban systems. I like the process in this one specifically because it's such a large piece of work. We had the first reading and we did some work between that. Now we had the second reading, and I'm really excited about the fact that we got so much feedback on that. And so we can get that right between this and the third final reading. So it's a very, very exciting for me, because in the end we'll have something that will make things easier for our staff. It'll make easier for the public when they are asking for something to navigate that. And so it's just a really good process that I believe will end up in being a really good piece of legislation for a municipality to help work with all the people that are looking at building or changing things and so on. Thank you very much.
Good, thanks, Marv. Anybody else have a comment?
I think to echo some of those comments, specifically to create a document that's much easier to follow and easier to find information in. The other one at times was overwhelming and was extremely confusing, and the fact that we streamlined it to a large degree with an intent to simplify and eliminate red tape wherever possible. And again, kudos to our staff and Urban Systems for the help that they provided. But without a doubt, Scott and Stephanie in that department, the work that they've put into it to create what I believe to be a much more easily understandable, easily to find information in than we had before. I'm quite proud of this document, actually. So thank you.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of closing this public hearing, and that is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 227121 be given second reading. Mover?
Henry Siemens?
Seconder?
Don?
Marvin? Don?
Okay, Don, got you there. And last chance. Any other comments? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Second reading be given. The next time around, I think you said next council meeting, probably either the next or the following
Might
one.
be another 2 weeks. 4
Certainly
weeks.
before Christmas.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'll have the final
Perfect.
third reading. All right, we have no other business. We've already dealt with the media. So the next item is, be it resolved, this regular meeting at council will be adjourned. Mover?
Don?
Don? Seconder?
I think I heard Karina.
I think it was a
Oh,
Karina.
Karina?
Yep.
Okay, okay, thanks, Karina. All in favor? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, team.
Thanks for coming, everyone, and for participating. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.